My cute neighbor's daughter pointed at my tattoo and said 4 words that stopped my heart cold. Mom, he has yours. And I never saw her mother the same way again. I'm Wesley Cole, 36, a widowed boat builder who buried the loudest part of my life beside my wife 2 years ago. But the morning a moving truck pulled up next door, stacked with boxes and a little girl in a purple backpack, I had no idea my whole past was about to climb out of that truck with her. Because when that little girl pointed at the crooked compass tattoo under my ear, her mother froze between the boxes, one hand flying to her own neck, and there it was, the exact same tattoo. Same hand-poked star, same long crooked point. The kind only 2 11-year-olds could make on a back porch with a sewing needle and a promise. My cute new neighbor stood there in shock, staring at me like she'd seen a ghost, and maybe she had. But how could a woman I'd never met be wearing a tattoo I watched get made 23 years ago? How could her daughter, a child who'd never met me before that morning, know a promise 2 kids buried before she was even born? And why did the woman next door look at my tattoo and start to cry before either of us said a single word? It was just past 9 in the morning, and the air still smelled like cut grass and cold coffee. I was on my porch the way I was every Saturday, doing nothing in particular because doing nothing was the only thing that didn't hurt anymore. Then I heard the truck. It groaned into the driveway next door, brakes hissing, tires crunching gravel. And for the first time in 2 years, something in my chest sat up and paid attention. I told myself it was just curiosity. New neighbors. Nothing more. I watched 2 men haul out a mattress, a dresser, and box after box marked in thick black marker. Kitchen, books, Ivy's room. Then I saw her. She came down the ramp with a lamp under one arm and her chin lifted like she was daring the world to slow her down. Dark hair, falling loose from its knot. Jeans dusted at the knee. A woman moving her whole life by herself, 1 box at a time. And behind her, hopping down the ramp 2 steps at a time, came a little girl in a purple backpack, ponytail swinging, eyes already busy cataloging every inch of her new street. I told myself to go back inside. I lasted about 90 seconds. A bookshelf got stuck sideways in the doorway, wedged like it had opinions of its own, and the woman was pushing against it with both hands, getting nowhere. I walked over before I'd decided to. Need a hand. She turned, and something crossed her face I couldn't name. Not quite recognition. More like a word sitting right on the tip of her tongue. I need a forklift, she said. But a hand'll do. We got the shelf loose together, both of us breathing hard, laughing at how ridiculous it had been. Up close, there was something in her eyes that made the morning feel less ordinary than it had any right to be. I didn't know why. Not yet. I'm Wesley, I said. Dell, she answered, shaking my hand like it was nothing. Just neighbors. Just a Saturday. That's when her daughter walked up beside us, tilted her head, and looked at my neck like she'd found something she'd been searching for her whole short life. Mom, she said. He has yours. I laughed it off the way adults do when a kid says something strange. Has my what exactly? But Dell wasn't laughing. Dell had gone very, very still. Her hand rose slowly to her own neck, fingers brushing just beneath her ear. And I watched the blood leave her face like someone had pulled a plug somewhere inside her. Where? She said, and her voice cracked right down the middle. Did you get that tattoo? I reached up without thinking, touched the small compass under my own ear. Crooked, faded, one point of the star stretched too long because the hand that made it had been 11 years old and shaking. I'd had it so long I forgot other people could see it. I forgot it was strange. I forgot, for 1 full year of my life, that it meant anything at all. A friend made it, I said slowly. A long time ago. We were kids. It's a stupid story. Tell it to me, she whispered. Please. And when she pulled her collar aside with a trembling hand, I saw it. The same crooked compass. The same long, uneven star point. Not similar. Not close. Identical down to the mistake, down to the shake in the hand that made it. My knees went weak in a way they hadn't in 20 years. That's not possible, I said, because it was the only sentence my brain could form. Wes, she said, and my name in her mouth landed like a stone dropped down a well I thought I'd sealed shut years ago. It's me. It's Delia. The world tilted sideways. Delia Marsh. The girl from the house behind mine. The one who taught me to skip stones on the creek. The one whose father showed us the names of stars the summer before everything fell apart. The girl who vanished one August without a single goodbye, whose letters I sent for a year came back stamped in red ink, returned to sender, until I convinced myself she'd simply decided to forget me. You didn't write back, I said, and I hated how much it still hurt to say it out loud. I waited a whole year. I never got anything, she said, and her eyes were spilling over now. Right there in the driveway, boxes all around us like the wreckage of 2 entire lives. I thought you stopped. Her daughter looked between us, confused and a little delighted, sensing that something enormous had just cracked open in front of her, and she didn't yet have the words for it. Do you two know each other? Ivy asked. Neither of us answered right away, because the truth was bigger than a driveway could hold, bigger than either of us had let ourselves believe for 23 years. And standing there, staring at a tattoo I thought had died with my childhood, I had no idea that the woman in front of me was about to answer the one question I'd buried the deepest. Why she left, and why, after all this time, fate had put her front door 6 feet from mine. We stood there in that driveway for what felt like a full minute, neither of us breathing right, boxes stacked around us like the ruins of 2 lives that had somehow found their way back to the same street. And before I tell you what happened next, because what happened next is the part that broke me open, if the story is already sitting heavy in your chest, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the notification bell, because you do not want to miss where this goes. Dell wiped her face with the back of her wrist, laughing and crying at the same time, the way people do when the truth is too big to hold politely. I can't believe it's you, she said. I used to look for you. Every new town, every new school. Some part of me was checking faces in the crowd. I stopped checking, I admitted. It hurt less to believe you'd forgotten. Ivy tugged on her mother's sleeve, patient the way kids are when grown-ups are being slow. Is he the compass boy? She asked. From the porch stories? Dell let out a breath that shook. Yeah, baby. He's the compass boy. I felt that sentence land somewhere deep in my ribs. 23 years and she'd kept me. Not as a regret, as a bedtime story. We moved the rest of the boxes inside without really talking, both of us too stunned to fill the silence with anything but small, careful questions. Somewhere in that quiet, Ivy and my daughter Piper found each other on the front lawn, and within 10 minutes they were inseparable, the way only 2 7-year-olds can become best friends in the time it takes their parents to carry one dresser up a driveway. You have a dad? Ivy said to Piper, amazed, like she'd found a rare shell on the beach. You have a mom, Piper said back, equally stunned, and just like that, 2 kids who'd met 20 minutes ago were already building a fort out of moving boxes like they'd known each other their whole lives. Watching them, something in my chest twisted. Piper hadn't laughed like that. Easy, loud, unguarded, in longer than I wanted to admit. Not since Nora passed. Not since our house learned how to be quiet. Later that evening, Dell and I sat on my porch with 2 mugs of coffee neither of us finished. And she told me the truth I'd waited 23 years to hear. My parents' marriage didn't just end, she said. It collapsed. My mom packed us up overnight. No warning. She didn't leave a forwarding address because she didn't want my dad finding us. I didn't know until years later that she'd done that to everyone. Not just him. You too. I wrote you every week for a year, I said. Every single letter came back stamped in red ink. I was 13. I thought that meant you didn't want them. I thought you just grew up and forgot, she whispered. I told myself that story so it would hurt less. We both did the same thing, I said. We both decided the other one left on purpose. For 23 years. She looked at the compass under my ear, then touched the one under hers, tracing the crooked star point like she was checking it was still real. We made a promise on that porch, she said, that no matter where either of us ended up, we'd always find our way back. I think some part of both of us never stopped believing that. Even when we thought we had. I didn't have words for that. I just reached over and took her hand, and she let me, and for the first time in 2 years, the quiet in my life didn't feel like something I was surviving. felt like something waiting to be filled. But it wasn't simple. Nothing that matters ever is. That night, after Dell and Ivy went home, I found Piper sitting up in bed, hugging her knees, staring at nothing. "You okay, Pipe?" I asked, sitting on the edge of her mattress. "If you like Dell," she said carefully, like she'd been rehearsing it. "Would Ivy be my sister?" I felt my chest go tight. That's a big question for bedtime. "I already decided she's my sister," Piper said simply. "I'm just checking if it's official." I didn't know how to tell my 7-year-old daughter that loving people again terrified me. That I'd built our whole life into something small and safe because small and safe couldn't be taken away the way her mother was taken away. I didn't know how to say, what if I let myself love someone and Piper loves them too? And then we lose them like we lost Nora. So instead I asked her, what if it doesn't work out? Between grown-ups, sometimes it doesn't. Piper looked at me like I was the child in the room. "Then we'd still be neighbors," she said. "And Ivy would still be my best friend." "You worry too much, Dad." Out of the mouths of 7-year-olds. The next evening, after the girls were asleep, I walked next door and told Dell everything. The fear, the guilt, the terror of opening a door I'd nailed shut 2 years ago. She listened without flinching, and when I finished, she took my hand across her kitchen counter and said the only promise that ever mattered. "I can't promise nothing bad will happen, Wes. Nobody gets that promise. But I can promise I'll stay for the hard parts. That's the only kind of promise that's real." It was the exact thing I didn't know I'd been starving to hear for 23 years. And standing there in her half-unpacked kitchen, boxes still stacked against the wall, I had no idea that the next few weeks would test that promise harder than either of us expected. Because somewhere out there, the past that broke us apart the first time wasn't quite finished with us yet. She said that promise like it cost her something to give, and I believed her completely, but I want you to know what came next tested every word of it, because some pasts don't let go quietly, and ours wasn't finished with us yet. 2 weeks after that night in her kitchen, Dell's phone rang during dinner, and I watched her whole body change the second she saw the name on the screen. Her ex-husband. He'd heard she'd moved, heard she wasn't alone anymore, and decided that was information he needed to comment on. She didn't answer it at the table. She excused herself, walked into the hallway, and I heard her voice go low and steady in a way that told me this wasn't the first time she'd had to sound calmer than she felt. When she came back, her hands were shaking slightly around her fork. "You don't have to tell me," I said. "I want to," she said. "He's not dangerous. He's just someone who liked me small, quiet, easy to manage. And now he's found out I'm not small anymore, and it bothers him." "What do you need?" I asked. Not what should we do. Not me deciding for her. Just the question she actually needed someone to ask. She looked at me for a long moment, like she was testing whether I meant it. "I need you to let me handle it," she said. "And I need you to still be here after I do." "Both," I said. "Easy." She blocked the number that night, told her sister, kept a record just in case. And when it was done, she sat on my porch steps with her knees pulled up and said, "I hate that my hands still shake." "They're allowed to," I told her, sitting beside her, our shoulders touching. "Shaking doesn't mean you're weak. It means it mattered, and you did it anyway." She leaned her head against my shoulder, and we sat there a long time, not saying anything, the crickets doing all the talking for us. But the fear didn't fully leave me. Not the fear of her ex, the fear underneath that, the one I hadn't said out loud yet. One evening, after the girls had gone to bed at Dell's house and it was just the two of us on her porch, I finally told her. "I keep thinking about Piper," I said. "She already lost one mother. If I let us get real and it doesn't work, she loses another person she loves. I don't know if I can survive watching her go through that twice." Dell didn't argue with me. She didn't rush to fix it. She just took my hand and said the truest thing anyone had said to me in 2 years. "I can't promise you it won't hurt if it ends," she said. "But I can promise you this, the version where we never try, where we stay careful and safe next door to each other forever, that one hurts too. It just hurts quieter. And quiet hurt is still hurt. Wes, you've been living in it for 2 years. I don't think it's saving you. I think it's just slowly using you up." I sat with that for a long moment, the porch light humming above us, moths circling like small nervous thoughts. Okay, I finally said. Okay, I want to try, really try. She smiled. That same 11-year-old smile from 23 years ago. A little shaky now, but real. Then let's do something, she said. Something we never finished. She went inside and came back with a sewing needle and a small bottle of ink, the leftover supplies from Ivy's brief and thoroughly confiscated tattoo phase. We made a promise on that porch when we were kids, she said, holding the needle up between us. Compass, so we'd always find our way back to each other. And we did. It took 23 years, but we did. Her voice caught. I think it's time we finished the promise. Not just find. Now it should mean stay. My hands weren't steady, but I took the needle anyway, and beneath the crooked compass under her ear, I added one small anchor. She did the same for me, her tongue between her teeth in concentration exactly the way it used to be when we were 11. And neither of us said a word the whole time because some moments don't need narration. When she finished, she pressed her thumb gently over the fresh mark on my neck. Now we don't just find our way back, she whispered. Now we stay, I said. The porch gate creaked. Two small shapes stood there in pajamas, having clearly snuck out to check on us. Ivy and Piper, hair mussed, eyes half shut, caught red-handed. Are you two doing the weird staring thing again? Ivy asked. Probably, Dell said, laughing through tears. Piper walked over and climbed straight into my lap without asking, the way she used to before her mother died. Back when the world still felt safe enough to fall asleep in. She looked at the new anchor on my neck, then at the one on Dell's, and nodded once, satisfied, like a tiny inspector signing off on something official. Good, she mumbled against my shoulder. Now it's official. And it was. 23 years, 2 broken promises that were never really broken, and one little girl's 4 words in a driveway full of moving boxes. That's all it took to bring 2 people home to each other again. So here's what I want to leave you with tonight. If you lost someone years ago, a friend, a love, a piece of your childhood you never got to say goodbye to, do you believe some people are simply meant to find their way back to you no matter how much time or distance stands in between? Or do you think it's something else entirely, something we build on purpose, one small brave choice at a time? Tell me what you believe in the comments. I'd really love to know.